We gave this introduction last time, if you remember, that this Yaakov and Esav, that Yaakov, when Rivka was notified, she learned about the twins she had, and she went to seek Hashem, and she got this message that she has twins, but the twins are very different in nature, and they're very different in their goals and objectives. There's Yaakov and Esav. The Yaakov world and the Esav world, and the godly messenger, or the godly word she heard, which is brought in the Pasuk from the prophet, when she went, she went to seek God in order to clarify what's going on. So the information she got, that one, they will not be able to coincide together. One nation will override the other. Maybe if Yaakov is in charge, let's say, so it's all about Yaakov world, a Yaakovite world, right? A Yaakov world. And if Esav is in charge, it's about Esav. They do not coincide because they're opposite by nature. As we brought down the pasuk, it says what is going to be when Mashiach will come. It says that we will be dominant over the mountain of Esav as well. Not only the mountain of Yaakov, because the point of it is not that Yaakov should be dominant in one place, and there should be even one domain in this world which is under the rulership or under the influence of Esav. The point of it is that the whole entire world is transformed. It becomes a world which is full of knowledge of Hashem, in other words, a Yaakov world. And that's what she was told. And the same thing in the microcosm when you're dealing with the body of man. There's two forces. There's the godly force and the animal force. They have nothing in common. They have nothing. Their messages are so different. The messages are so extreme. The messages are so distinct. And the godly soul wants the entire system should surrender to it, should be influenced by it, and lead and function according to its messages. The body and the animal soul, rather than Avraham, wants the entire system, the entire body, thought, speech, action, the attributes, characters, everything should surrender to it. To literally live an animalistic life. An animalistic. Remember, we said this. We gave this rule, or we gave this. We had this precedent all along. Animalistic doesn't mean bad. It means plain animal, without any godly purpose. That's what the Nefesh Baham is. That's the message Nefesh Baham is sending. So, now what are they trying to fight with? In other words, who are they trying to win over? Each one is trying to win over the territory which is standing in between them. And we gave the example. You have two kings even today in the world today, which we don't have, or it's not so prevalent, the phenomenon of a monarch, a king, and everything. It is more democracy, but still there's nations today. There's nations that sit in cities and places. The Far East, especially, I have to mention in here that there's constantly friction for decades, because each one wants. And it's not that they have thousands of square feet, square miles, thousands of miles in their countries, but it's that territory. They feel that we want everything. We don't want nothing less than everything. In other words, and they border a certain place, and each one wants to be dominant over that territory. Similarly, what is the territory in this what is a city? What is the territory in this context? It's the body. And whatever the body consists of. The godly soul wants everything, and the animal soul wants, again, nothing less than everything. The body is called the small city. Just like two kings fight and war over one city. Each one wants to conquer the city and to rule over it. To conduct its habitants according to his desire. In other words, when we say conquer, doesn't mean, okay, just put up a flag. Everybody doesn't like you, but put up your flag. That's not called surrender. You could be physically dominant over something. That's not called surrendering. It's not called truly in control. It's not called you conquer the city. Conquer the city means that people acquiesced to your position, to your objective, to you, or they recognize you as the leader. And it becomes manifest in so many details, and it becomes obvious. becomes relevant, rather, in all the detail, the currency and how people, the style, the rules and regulations, that this city should act or should be conducted just like my entire territory. If it's mine to the end. And similarly, the other king wants this territory not only just to put up kind of something to external. Okay, he wants everything to pervade and to permeate every detail of that city in order that that city should be equal to his entire territory, equal to all this territory which is already under him. That's what the king wants. That's what Alter Rebbe adds. V'lim lechaleh. Not just some external rulership, that the inhabitants of the city should be conducted as the way he wants. They should bend themselves, they should surrender to his rules, and everything what he's going to decree. That is called conquering. So we're dealing with the two souls. Each one wants to conquer the body. The two godly souls. The two souls, which is what is the godly soul and the animal soul, which we said that is what vitalizes the body. Where does it come from? Klipa. Constantly war and fight one over each other. From the body, right? Not only kind of a flag, I'm here. It's about God, or it's about being an animal. Overall message on the body. No. Alter Rebbe continues. Every limb is subjugated. It wants every limb to subdue itself, subjugate itself to the message of each one of these kings. Each in this context, be to the soul. The godly soul desire, wants. Excuse me, and the Ritzayna desires that it should be the only dominant reality over the body, and to conduct the body. And all limbs should surrender to its ideals and to its messages, to its dictates, and completely nullified to the godly soul. And this is another factor which we see with two kings. No compromise. When two kings are determined to take over a particular city, they're not going to say, you know what, I'll put the flag in and I'll have my currency, you'll have your something of yourself. No. A king wants everything. He wants nobody and nothing should be in charge together with him when he decides to take over to conquer a city. That's the definition of conquering. When the other guy has a house there, or he has people looking up to him, or they're going to continue speaking the language. Doesn't mean to change the language from day to day, but he doesn't want no influence of the other party at all. Similarly, the godly soul wants everything. He doesn't want any part of the body should be at the table, or say be at the part of, or subdue itself to the messages of the animal soul. Well, we're 180%. The godly soul is 80% in charge. The godly soul, it's not satisfied. The godly soul wants to be 100% in charge. Not I'm 80% and the other 20% okay is animal, or is in surrender to the animal message in the animal soul. It wants everything, similar to the king, the determination and victory of a king, or the victorious drive that any king has. He wants everything. He wants no one else to be in charge. Similarly, the Nefesh B'Ha'at and the Nefesh L'Kis wants everything. You see this over here time and again. In the Lashon Alter Rebbe, all the limbs should follow its suggestions, ideals. And be nullified to it ligamri. Here we go, ligamri again, completely. And more so, merkavela, to be a chariot to it. A chariot to it. Imagine two people driving a car. Doesn't work. One wants to turn right, wants to turn right. And what if one wants to turn right and the other one wants to turn left? Okay, I'll give in to you, I'll turn right. You still don't feel in charge. In charge means you are the only rider. You are the only rider of this vehicle, and this vehicle is completely surrendered to you. Similar to when you drive a car. I mean, you hope you're in charge, you hope you're in control, but usually you are. That is the car is not, even the car itself. It's not the car says, okay, you really want to go right. I want to go left. But you're the driver. You have the wheel. I got to surrender to you. That's not a merkava. That's not the bittul. That's not an expression of the nullification of a car or a chariot in the yesteryears to the right. Right? It means he's in charge completely. You have no opinion. You have no say. And that's the way the godly soul wants it to be. That the animal soul should not even have a say in it. He completely merkava. It should be a rider to it, to the godly soul. The levush, that the body should be a garment, to its 10 pchinis, a garment to its 10 levels, which means if a garment is fitted pretty much, right? Someone has a jacket, as an example, it's not just something we're just thrown over a cloth, it's fitted to the hand. So the same thing, it wants to be a levush. The godly soul wants to be the garment, which means that it should serve the purpose of the godly soul. To its 10 levels, which again the 10 pchinas is the wisdom, understanding, cognitive faculties, and the emotional faculties. If man has cognitive faculties, then the godly soul desires and with determination that the person utilizes godly soul, or rather his cognitive faculties, to think, perceive, intellectualize godliness and godliness only, not anything else. And the godly soul the godly soul knows, or put it this way, because the person consists of his 7 emotional faculties. He has love, he has fear, and all the other 5. The godly soul says, you have love, it's about love of God. You have fear, fear of God. Compassion, netzach yesod, as we discussed in the past, these 7 midas and malchus, including malchus. And so too, and he wants everything to surrender to it. Everything should be godly. Again, if you love God. You fear God, etc. And finally, the gimel of Ushah now. That all the 3 garments. Remember, we spoke about the 3 garments. What are the 3 garments? Thought, speech, and action. You have thought, it's going to be thoughts of Torah, thoughts and mitzvahs. You have speech, it's going to be to utter the words of Torah, to utter the words of prayer, and Tehillim and prayer, and back to Torah, and back to Tehillim, nothing else. Or important words when someone has to speak in order to pursue with a mitzvah, with a good deed, etc. But nothing else. And again, finally, action. You have action. This system of man has action. It's going to be a godly action, which is ultimately mitzvahs. That the godly thought, speech, and action should enter into and godly character, and godly emotion, and godly intellect should completely invest in the limbs of the body. Levadam, that the body should be full with them, with this godly message, or with this godly structure, solely, levadam only. There's no alien, there's no stranger is going to pass by this territory. And an animal soul is not even going to enter to say its opinion. And the Adal Rebbe breaks it down and dissects it. What do I mean over here? Even though we pretty much did that, the Adal Rebbe does it himself over here after he says this. Still, in comparison to what he's going to say further, it's still general. So Adal Rebbe starts getting specific. You have 3 cognitive faculties in your brain. It should be full from the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the godly soul. What is wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the godly soul? Chachmas Hashem, the wisdom of Hashem, and understanding of Hashem, and to ponder and to thoroughly think. Invest in ponder bigdulase asher ein cheker, in God's greatness, which has no end. The ein sof, in other words, ein cheker means there's no perception in God's great, infinite greatness. The ein sof, and again, it's infinite greatness. And this is where the person, the godly soul, wants the person to utilize his thought and speech, or rather in this case, his wisdom and understanding, his chachma bina, should be full of chachmas Hashem abinase. And then, in other words, all of the cognitive faculties should be completely suffused with godliness. And remember, lahaylid, when a person understands, we said this quite a few times, that when a person understands something thoroughly, the lahaylid, that produces, remember, intellect produces feelings. So when he's going to profoundly ponder in this reality of God, in the greatness of God, in the infinity of God, So this is going to produce lahaylid mihen, and this is again part of the desire of the nefesh godly soul to give a birth and to produce through this profound understanding of godliness, al-yidei das, through knowledge, as we mentioned. If you remember the end of the 3rd chapter, and we explained this in length, it's not only its understanding, it's a matter in order that it should connect to the person's emotion. The person should become emotional with God. It's important it crosses that crucial component called das. Remember we spoke about das in length. It's again in the end of the 3rd chapter. You could look it up online as well. It's to the very end of the 3rd chapter, and deals with the das, the faculty of das, which is the 3rd faculty of the intellectual faculties, and that is that connector. That is becoming not only knowing something, but becoming kind of deeply connected or even intimate with this knowledge. As we mentioned, das causes, it's not a matter of information, it's a matter of transformation. It's a certain way of knowing something that ultimately, and in this context, produces midas, it produces feelings. And what are the feelings which you would produce through profoundly pondering of this greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is ein cheker, ultimately cannot ultimately be perceived, and knowing that it's infinite. What does it produce? It produces the fear in its mind, and the fear of Hashem in its heart, the awe of Hashem in his heart. Again, as we said, intellect produces feelings, and in this case, because it's the godly intellect, or the godly intellect which is determined to enter into the cognitive faculties of man. So what is it going to produce, and what does the godly soul want it to produce? It wants it to produce yira b'meiche, fear in his mind, in his mind, and awe in his heart. That's in the side of fear. And also, what other emotion does it produce? All 7. But I'll tell you, as an example, it starts with yira, and then ba'avas Hashem, and the love of Hashem, ke'esh be'er b'liba, like a burning flame of love in the Jew's heart. Kirish be'shal heves, like a engulfed flame. His love to be to boundless love. He should yearn, his soul. We completely go out and completely can be consumed into God's presence. That's how much the godly soul wants the person which has that attribute of love to develop a true, genuine love, a fervorous love to Hashem. And again, firstly, he's saying this is like a dual message. One, he's saying that this is consequent when you understand God thoroughly, consequent, especially through that component of das, you're going to develop a feeling of love. You're going to develop a feeling of fear. But Al Rebbe, in the same token, said this is what the godly soul wants. That the entire heart should be full of godly drives or godly passion. Fear may be love. Like we said, kol sanafshi, such a fervorous love that his soul is completely consumed and wants to be completely unconditionally connected to Hashem, with a strong desire and a strong yearning, to cleave to the infinite one, the infinite God, blessed be He, b'chol leiv nefesh, with all heart and soul. Again, here the nefesh God does not want to compromise. Okay, I'm going to love God a little bit and love something else which is the antithesis to God. Only 20%. He says, no, b'chol leiv nefesh. You have a heart, you have a soul, a heart which is going to completely be passionate with God, a soul which is going to be completely passionate with God. And very much, and this is again part of or associated with the classic word in the Kriya Shema, love Hashem not only with all your heart, with all your soul, but with all your might. And in this case also, the godly soul wants nothing mediocre. Not only to gain someone's attention in his heart and soul, but meaning to say it should be the quality, not only the quantity of love. No, it should be completely, the heart should be completely suffused with His love, but it should come in the most deepest part, most profound parts within the person's heart. That's the ma'id. Ma'id really means very much. With all this might means from the depth of his heart, which is on the right side, as we established in the beginning of the chapters, we elaborated last week, that the whole entire heart should be completely full with love to Hashem, so full and so condensed. that it's also going to pour over to the left side. Who is in the left side? We also spoke about this last week. The animal soul's on the left side. And this is similar to when you have two cups, for example. You put it together. What's going to happen when you fill up one cup to the end? You're going to fill up one cup to the end, especially it's surrounded by the cup, the outer cup. So what's going to happen to it? What's going to happen? You fill it up so much, it's going to pour over, and guess where? It's going into the other cup itself. So from in following words, the Alter Rebbe is going to introduce this notion, which we learn about in Mishnah, is Hashem not only wants us to love God with the godly soul, He wants us to love God with the animal soul. Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty tricky. What do you mean, love God with the animal soul? The animal soul is sending such opposite messages. It's saying, be an animal. But Hashem wants, ultimately, that we should refine, we should explain the animal within exists within us in a way that it should become less animalistic and become more refined. What's happening when a person becomes more refined, that his godly soul, the fervor, is so potent and is so strong in the godly soul, it's pouring over to the person's animal soul. It means to say, he himself becomes conscious and cognizant about the negativity or the negative approach, the negative notion, the negative idea of living an entire life in an animalistic manner. So it's not only here, it's an experience of the godly soul. The godly soul, the godly soul doesn't have to negate anything. It's a part of God. From the godly soul perspective, everything is God. And if it has love, it certainly has love to God. But the godly soul wants it to pervade the body. In other words, it should be so powerful that it should overflow into the animal soul. What does it mean, overflow in the animal soul? That the person in his right framework understands with his own mind that it doesn't make sense that God created us to just give in to our animalistic passions, lust, and temptations. What's happening at that time? What's happening at that time is this was a direct influence of the godly soul. Because when a person exercises or allows the godly soul to come into his system and to dig deeper, in other words, to settle himself almost deeper or make himself more and more comfortable in every single limb of the person's body, what happens? The person is becoming more godly. He's literally becoming holier. What happens? You become holier, so you're ultimately, anything unholy around you also starts becoming holier. You walk into a shul, you weren't very shul type before you walk into shul. You walk into a shul, you see 10 people or 20 people warmly davening to Hashem. Inevitably, you are going to change your attitude. You're going to feel, oh, this is warm. Not necessarily you're going to become the tzaddik. But when you're around, or similarly, when you're around a hot, boiling piece of wood, burning piece of wood, you're going to get warm. Try to put a cloth around an oven, or put a cloth next to an oven. It's going to get warm. This is what the pasuk, this is the Mishnah says, love Hashem with all your heart, meaning say not only the godly soul, but the animal soul as well. What does that mean? The animal soul wants to be animalistic. But based on the precedent which we had, the animal soul is not a matter of being bad, it's just being animalistic. But the animal soul has some type of understanding, and it comes when the godly soul exercises its connection, or executes its connection to all faculties of the person's body. And that is where the Nefesh HaBahamis is as well. If you remember, we said the Nefesh HaLikis borders the Nefesh HaBahamis, even though the Nefesh HaLikis is not its original position where it is. If you remember last week, we learned the Nefesh HaLikis, its main station, it's like we use its corporate offices in the brain. It has a satellite a base rather, in the heart. So because it has a base in the heart, it borders the animal soul, because the animal soul is situated in the heart. As we mentioned, in animals, it's all about heart. Remember we said the Gemara says, Kelev is kulei lev. That's what the animal is all about. It's all about heart. Now the godly soul, which has a base right next to, who neighbors the godly soul? The animal soul. It has a base right next to the main position and the habitat, the main place of where the animal soul resides. So if the godly soul exercises or executes its determination take over the body completely, that everything should be godly, everything should surrender to the godly message. And in this context itself, the Alter Rebbe speaks about spilling over to the other side, to the Nefesh Ba'am, is precisely when it comes to heart. Because that's where the animal soul is. The animal soul is one side of the heart. So when the person exercises this love to Hashem, fervorous love to Hashem, and it has right next its neighboring the animal soul is going to become less animalistic. And what does it mean in simple words? The person starts realizing, I didn't come to this world just to eat, drink, and sleep, and eat, drink, and sleep again, eat, drink, and sleep again. I was on the plane today, I was sitting next to somebody who was telling me about an experience, a neighbor who became frum. He said before I was introduced to Shabbos, he says, I can never appreciate so much Shabbos because I never had Shabbos before. That's why I could appreciate it so much more than even someone who had it. Because every day was the same. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Shabbos. There was nothing different. One day didn't look different than the other. And there was no message. There was no family time. There was no time to express or adequately express the soul. Where did it come from? It's not the godly soul doesn't have to explain the beauty of Shabbos. The godly soul is a part of God. It has nothing else other than God and His mitzvahs, which one of them happens to be Shabbos. The idea that a person should come with his own framework, in a frame of mind rather, and say, well, this doesn't make sense. I need Shabbos in my life. So obviously, which the underlining push is God's command, which is ultimately the core and essential desire of every Yid to follow God, to follow the mitzvahs. In other words, if Hashem wants it, we also essentially want it. Which is, you could say naturally, this is an expression of the godly soul. But when the person starts realizing and appreciating it from the common sense point of view, or he starts appreciating it from his own perspective and point of view, that means that the message of Shabbos poured over into the animal soul, and the animal soul realizes, I didn't come to this world that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everything should be the same. I need some time. I need some family time. I need to go to shul. And I didn't come into this world just to eat and drink and sleep and start eating and drinking and sleeping again. There has to be some purpose in life. That is talk of the animal soul, which is understanding and is getting the message that's resonating in the animal soul. That godliness is where we ought to invest. That's what the pasuk means. I love Hashem, my godly soul, and my animal soul. Now let's put into words. This is the message. And the reason why the Alter Rebbe points this out over here, because again, we're dealing with a heart expression. The heart of the Nefesh Elikis, or the Nefesh Elikis wants the heart should only love Hashem, and because that's the place where the Nefesh Ba'am resides is in the heart, like we learned in the beginning of the chapter. So if the godly soul has this fervorous love to Hashem, it will inevitably pour over into the animal soul. The animal soul will be less animalistic, and that's what he says. He said what's going to happen is, here, this is where we're Mali the Gadush, full and completely. Gadush means to say to the top. And what happens? The Gadush, it's full to the top and it starts spilling over. What happens is it starts becoming, in other words, it extends itself and it expresses itself. In this case, it extends itself to the negative, or rather to the left side, where the Nefesh Bahamis resides. To bend the Sitra Achra, which is the makeup of the animal soul, which is which is the foundation, which is the basis of its evil waters. And what is the evil waters of the animal soul? Shiat Taiva, which is the lusts and desires and temptations for the physical, for the animalistic, which comes from Klipas Nega. But when the holy impression expresses of the godly soul expresses itself and pours over or expresses itself with fervorous love to Hashem, and similarly in all the midas of the Nefesh Elikis, it pours over to the left side. The left side realizes that it's time to give in, and what's happening is that the Maimaroim, which means the taiva, the temptation, which comes from Klipas Nega, starts getting the message. And what is the message? And this is again part of the desire of the Nefesh Elikis, l'shanaisa, to change it, to reform it, to transform it from the desires of worldly desires, rather, l'avas Hashem, to love Hashem. In other words, that the Nefesh Bahamim starts getting the message. And this is all part of the desire of the Nefesh Elikis, that it doesn't want no influence of the animal soul in the system, in other words, the animalistic influence. And if the animalistic, an animal soul ultimately, and by definition, or by its mere nature is here to some degree in the person's system in order to give it life, it's going to be as well surrendered to the godly message. Lishanoisa, to reform it, to change it. And not only to change it, subdue it, but lahavcha, to completely transform it. Mitanugei lamaza, from worldly pleasures, lavas Hashem, to the love of God. As we know, that when you're dealing, it's like a war cap. You know, like you have a missile. The missile is an enormous energy. The question: what kind of top you're putting on? You're putting in a conventional top, or you're putting in, God forbid, a non-conventional top. In this case also, the animal soul has a drive. The question is, if you're not going to gear it, the top is going to be animalistic drive. It has enormous drive, like in any animal. An animal is mighty. It's even stronger than a man, than a human being. By its own nature, it's stronger. It has a certain sense of drive and determination, much more than man. So if you're going to let it loose, it's going to express itself to be, it's going to express that fervor, that energy in an animalistic manner and fashion. But if you're going to gear it, what you're going to gain is that the godly soul is, in other words, the animal soul not only is not going to interfere, but it's going to utilize its energy of desire and drive and fervorous pull. It's going to be again with the godly cap, with the godly, let's call it warhead in this case, with the godly message, with the godly dictate, and that means l'shanaisa, to change, but l'havcha, to transform into Nugei Lamhaza, from the pleasures of those worldly pleasures, la'avas Hashem, to the love of Hashem, that one should love Hashem with all his heart. And the Mishnah says, which means both Yetzer Hara. How do you love Hashem with How do you love Hashem with Yetzer Hara? We'll stop over here, but how do you love that? How do you love Hashem with Yetzer Hara? Because we're not talking about somebody who's something, an energy which is by definition evil. Something by definition evil. It's not, the Torah wouldn't give us a clear mandate to transform it. Hashem wants, and again, in this context, the Nefesh Elikis wants, as we said, the king, which wants to take over that middle territory, he wants nothing of the other king's presence or involvement at all. The godly soul, but in this case, the animal soul to a great degree is there. It's giving life. It has a position in the heart. No problem. That's when the enemy can become an ally as well. If the other king, as an example, is going to also serve the purpose of this king who's taking over, who's conquering the city, that's okay. You could be here, that you cannot be here as a foe, as an enemy. You could be here as an ally. So the fact that Nefesh Bahamim is still present and resides in the heart of the Jew, and as we say, that's his main station, it's his main presence, no problem. As long as you're not going to be an enemy. How can you not be an enemy? So it goes like this. Something is cold, something is hot. It's two opposite. But when you put the cold, you stand next to the hot, and it starts warming and warming till it becomes fiery hot again. What's the difference, this and this? There is no difference. It's both hot plastic or hot liquid. 10 minutes ago, they were two opposite. Hot and cold are two opposites. I mean, to a great degree. The same thing. The animal soul, as long as they're sending animalistic messages, that's a foe, that's an enemy. Nefesh Elikis says no. But the Nefesh Elikis warms up to God with its again starting what produces the midah. In other words, with its understanding and pondering in the greatness of Hashem, which inevitably will produce a feeling of love and fear, and again an expression of all the other middays. And where is heart? Where does a person feel or love? In this case, love Hashem, fear Hashem. It's in the heart. And what's neighboring it? The animal soul is there. So the animal also starts warming up to this godly reality. So it's there, but it's not there as a foe. It's not there as an enemy. It's there as an ally. No problem. And again, it's not a matter of words over here. It's not a matter of words. It's like the Shliach spoke last night. He said, when you give a class, something very, very beautiful. He said, when you give a class, people want to hear the information. When they sit at your table and they see the beauty of Shabbos and beauty of true family life and true kids, how the dignity of family life is so overt and so manifest in that. But even one Friday night evening, he says they don't just want to know the information. They want to have part of that. They want to take it home with them. What does it mean, take it home with them? They want to come home and they wish that their own children will sit so nicely together or be there at the Shabbos table the following week. What happened before and after? It's not like they accepted the Kabbalah Sel, they subdued to God's command of Shabbos. As part of that happens also. When you learn a class, you learn more about who Hashem is and Hashem's mitzvahs, and we all essentially want Hashem, that's one thing. But there's something that even the part of you which appreciated anything else except other than Shabbos the week before, because you didn't know about it, and you thought, why the restrictions? And why can't I go into my car and so on? Why can't I drive? Why can't I flip open the light? The whole thing is strange to you. But then you come in and you become part of it, and you see it, and you live it, and then you walk home and you say, wow, I'm really missing something. What's happening there? What's happening not because you became more of a Kabbalah Selnik, you became more of Hashem's army, a soldier in Hashem's army. What happened to you the moment that the part of you would appreciated everything else, the car, the light, the soccer game, the basketball game on Shabbos, that itself started appreciating Shabbos, the family life, the sanctity of Shabbos. The time is given, the attention given to family, to shul, to the service of God, etc. The Nefesh Bahamis starts acquiescing to all this information. That's what it means. So how does a person get there? In this case, because now Rebbe points this out, stops over here, not so much when he dealt with the understanding of God, he spoke about when these two neighbors really come together. The heart and the animal soul, which is BAYT station in the heart, it starts warming up to God. So now the animal soul becomes less animalistic, becomes an ally. It's an ally in my territory and an ally. It's all good. Have a good night.